Hey guys, welcome to Ron's Reactions episode 29. It's going to be that 2023 outlook on the NFC West. We're presented by Fantasy Football Infinity. We're brought to you by Dynasty Theory. Jay, what's up?
What's up, guys? Stoked to be here. Hope everyone had a good holiday last week.
Holler,
how you
how's
doing?
it going? Oh,
I'm good. We don't take days off. So yeah, I hope you guys had a good holiday last week. No days off. Yeah, so ready to get into this NFC West.
For sure.
start me up.
But before we do that, we gotta
All
get
right.
started up here. So the topic of this week, Start Me Up, is players that we're trying to target on rebuilding rosters. And Holler, let's have you kick us off here with some of your names you got here.
Yeah, so I broke it into 3 different categories for you. I picked some rookies because I actually, I really like this class. And then I broke it into a relatively cheap player and then a more expensive player that you want to kind of build. I think you want to build your team around. So some of the rookies that I have 2 wide receivers that I don't think, one for sure probably won't see much of the field this year, but I was looking at contracts and I think Cedric Tillman next year. I know Donovan Peoples-Jones is probably going to be on his way out. And then depending on how the year goes for the Browns, I think maybe Amari Cooper as well could be on his way out. So it could be Elijah Moore and Cedric Tillman then. So I think Tillman is pretty darn good. So I think that's a good guy to target pretty cheap, especially right now, because I think even if you wait a little bit into the season, you're not going to see much from him. So people are going to be trying to move off of him. And then Marvin Mims, one of my favorite rookies. I've been talking about him a ton. I have a ton of shares. And so I think we've already heard about Cortland Sutton and Jerry Jeudy moving on. Yeah, Jerry Jeudy moving on. So I think, Marvin Mims is going to maybe even either the end of this year or same as Tillman next year. I think he's going to be pretty darn good, especially because Peyton went out and moved up to get him. Right. So those are my 2 wide receivers. And I have 2 running backs as well. Tajay Spears, he's not really going to be cheap because he was going in that early second, mid second. So he's not going to be cheap. But if he's somebody on your team and you're rebuilding, keep him, because I think in 24 he's going to be really good. I know there was already some talks about trading Derrick Henry, so I think they can move off of him as well. And then this is kind of a dart throw a little bit, but Evan Hull, I know that they have not signed or picked up his 5th-year option, Jonathan Taylor. So I think Indianapolis could move on. Just depends on how this year goes. We saw last year he was getting injured. And so it just will depend on, I think, how the year goes. I assume they're going to, pay him. But as we see the running back landscape, you don't really know what's going to happen, right? So then real quick, one of the guys that is relatively cheap, Treylon Brooks, I think he's going to have a great year. There's not really anybody else there unless they sign. Even if they sign Hopkins, I still think Brooks is going to have a good year, right? I think he's figured out his asthma, got a good inhaler, so I think he's going to have a good year. And then one player that I would like to, he's going to be expensive, but I would like to build around him. If you have some extra firsts, and then make sure they're late first, but I think Justin Fields is going to take a step forward this year, and I think he's somebody that you can build around. And I really think that rebuild will start to turn around.
Yeah, I like a lot of those names there. I think Cedric Tillman's a really good call out, just because I don't think he's going to be on the field a lot this year. So he's one of those assets that you think is going to gain value from this time, now until this time next year.
Yep.
And he's not going to score a lot of points on your roster, so he's not going to screw over your first, so you can get an earlier pick. That's exactly what I try to target. And Evan Hull, and I think Tajay Spears fit that as well. Mm-hmm. Marvin Mims, I think, might see the field more than we think, just because I think Cortland Sutton's kind of busted. And he hasn't been the same player since like the multiple knee injuries. I think he kind of derailed his career. Justin Fields is an interesting one. That's one where it's kind of almost like contradictory, right? If you're trying to give up multiple firsts in a rebuild, but he could be worth it, right? And And it's like if you think about this time last year trying to acquire Jalen Hurts, and then now his value skyrocketed, right? So
that's exactly kind of what I was thinking. And just that one's more like targeted if you were to say you have 3 extra firsts or 2 extra firsts, and you want to send maybe say you have Goff on your team and you're thinking about rebuilding, you could probably send maybe 1 first in Goff to somebody that is trying to, and maybe an extra player, somebody that's trying to go for the for the win this year. It just will depend on the person. So that one really is depending on what your team is already looking. And a lot of times when I'm rebuilding, I have extra picks, right? So that's where I'm thinking is, okay, let me see a player that I could start to have that, really good player that I'm going to be able to then move forward on.
Right. If you're rebuilding correctly, you hopefully do have extra firsts, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Ron, what are you thinking there on rebuilding targets?
I got my favorite guy, Mr. Mac Jones, who's just hucking 70-yard bombs today. Look, the reason I have Mac Jones is on rebuilds. It's where I like to take my biggest risks here. Okay, so you can just throw Mac Jones for cheap onto any roster, and I'm going to hope that Mac Jones returns to Kirk Cousins' level of play, basically, and he's mediocre for the rest of his life. Then I have a quarterback 2 on my roster, as I'm rebuilding this thing. But Mac Jones isn't going to win me any games either, so he's going to keep my picks low. And that's something that I like as well. Also, I put down here Tank, James Cook, and Kendre because I think those are 3 running backs whose value could potentially jump up from where they are. They're tiered around some other people that I don't mind having, but these guys' names, I just feel like if they hit the field running, they're going to get a bigger boost than the rest of the names around them. Kind of the Miles Sanders, Isaiah Pacheco, Khalil Herbert, Jamal Williams. You're not getting any higher than a second with those guys if they get any better. These guys could push into the late first, if they start to show out. You always want to have your young wide receivers too. We could go through the entirety of tiers of wide receivers, but I think the nasty ones that I like to get right now are Godwin and DJ Moore. DJ Moore is probably going to get a little bit harder because it seems like every week there's a new Justin Fields DJ Moore tweet. He's getting a little bit more expensive, that's for sure, from the offers I've received.
And I think Godwin right now is actually going to be a little bit cheaper because
I think Godwin.
Yeah.
No.
Yep.
And he's just a solid value just to have on your roster. And you can count on him. That's what I want.
And he's on a bad team. Sorry, Holler. Yep. He's on a bad team too, so they're going to be behind quite a bit. He's probably going to get peppered with targets. He's kind of the not like the slot receiver, right? So the guy who's going to get like kind of the shorter targets. So it doesn't matter if you have Baker Mayfield or Kyler Trask who are relatively inaccurate, right?
He's got to get it close enough.
It's closer. Mike Evans is the one. I think we talked about that on that show that he's gonna struggle. But I like the Godwin. What would you offer for Godwin right now? I'm assuming you're rebuilding it and you don't want to trade picks. Are you trying to like tear down from maybe an aging vet or
it would be tearing down from an aging vet. That's definitely the move there. And hope you can get a late 2 tacked in there, something additional. Because I like Godwin that much. I don't think it would take too much, just dependent on the context, really, though, of the roster.
Could you do Amari Cooper for Godwin and maybe a small little add-on?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
I would think you get a 2, or is that too much?
I think it would be hard to get a 2.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think
they're 2-3 swap. We could give them the 2-3 swap.
Yeah. That's always a good move too on the rebuilds, is trying to throw in your third and then for a 2. But sometimes you got to be careful of that too. If your third's going to be early, and if you're trading to someone his 2 might be late, you might have just given yourself like a 3 pick difference for.
Just don't do a 1-2 swap and you'd be okay.
That's true.
Yeah, might as well move up a couple spots. And I mean, I feel like Amari Cooper and Godwin are right in that same tier. I think some people might have Godwin above Cooper, but I think right now he's down, with the landscape of Tampa Bay.
Yeah, for sure. He's got the
those
on him.
Creamsicle jerseys.
I like.
They brought him back.
Pretty darn good,
again.
Dude. Woke up feeling dangerous. Tell him
something like that. The player I had is a player that I don't think is going to play much, if at all, this year. Is Kyler Murray. He kind of has that Cardinals like bad taste in his mouth, especially with they have 2 top 5 picks next year, presumably assuming Houston doesn't do very well, and Arizona kind of tanks. So there's the possibility there that Caleb Williams or Drake May is going to end up being drafted by the Cardinals, and it's like, oh, what's Kyler going to do? And dynasty managers hate uncertainty, right? But that's where you're rebuilding. That's where you can get your value. I was looking at that trades on DLF Trade Finder today for Kyler Murray. Dude, they're all over the place. Like one guy traded Lamar Jackson and got Kyler, Hollywood, a 1 and a 2 next year, which seems like an absolute haul. And then someone got
for Lamar.
Yeah, I don't.
To be honest, he didn't trade anything away. I don't think. Maybe that first. I don't think Kyler has much more value.
Oh, interesting. So you would trade
Kyler.
all of those assets for Lamar?
Yeah, I think it's over for Kyler. I think Marquise is out in the desert to die with him.
See, there you go. Kyler's super cheap, and worst case, right? He's not going to score you many points at all this year, and then you are getting yourself closer to the 101, and hopefully you get his replacement in Arizona, Caleb Williams, and then Kyler goes somewhere else, and now you have 2 starting quarterbacks.
Yeah, I'm with you guys. Like I think Kyler will be back. He's got I'm not going to say a lot, but he has upside because that running, and I just think we got to think about Cliff Kingsbury. I mean, come on, it's kind of like that Urban Meyer and Trevor Lawrence. Trevor Lawrence is much better quarterback, but if you think about it like that a little bit, I think Kyler Murray's a solid guy if you're rebuilding.
For sure. I get all those arguments. I just think that Kyler's kind of a head case. And
agreed.
It really needs to be a very good soft landing spot for him to get it back under control if he's going to do it at all.
He is, but if you look at his contract, like his cap hits over the next 4 years are insane, dude. Like they can't just walk away from him. Like, and so maybe they trade him, but whoever's trading for him is going to inherit that contract, and then and he's still young enough that he's going to be a starter. Like he has enough talent, even if he has a head case. There are a ton of NFL players who maybe don't have their head on quite straight, but if you're talented enough, you get chances, right?
Yep.
And then the last 2 names I had written down here are a pair of wide receivers on a probably bad passing offense this year, is Michael Pittman and Josh Downs. I don't think they're going to score a lot of points this year. Michael Pittman's already seen his value kind of plummet. Josh Downs was kind of a pre-draft darling of a lot of the people in the analytics community. And now he's going to an offense. I was Downs with the sickness. I still am a little bit.
Yeah.
But I don't think he's going to have a ton of production year 1, but I think his situation year 2 with Anthony Richardson, hopefully he'll take a step forward from year 1 to year 2. Like his points will go forward. So if you get him now, hopefully both those player situations will increase. And those are players that I think would disappoint you if you're a contender with either of those of them now. But on a rebuild, you're kind of hoping that they don't do very well, right? So that you can.
I would say the one like overall, like I agree 100% with Godwin. I just worry with that, like garbage time, you might have too many points on your team. But I mean, if he's one of your top wide receivers and you're rebuilding, then I think you'll be fine.
For sure. And if hopefully you're getting like an additional piece and you're getting rid of someone else who would have been scoring either more points or the same amount of points, and you're getting like a pick. So you're gaining additional assets. I think that's the biggest probably takeaway here is if you're rebuilding, try to grab additional assets so that you can kind of hopefully hit some dart throws in rookie drafts.
100%. Yeah.
Should we get Brocked up? I've been waiting to get Brocked up all night.
Well, before we get there, do you want to talk about the Alvin Kamara thing? So he pleaded guilty to not the felony charge, but I think it was like a misdemeanor or something. I apologize. I'm not a lawyer, right? So I don't understand how our legal system works here. But I just know it wasn't the felony that he pleaded guilty to. There's still a chance that he could get suspended before this year. There's still a chance that it could be pushed back until next year. I don't know if it makes too much sense to speculate on it a ton, but just knowing that some more uncertainty, we might get some closure on this finally within the next month or so. But
gosh, I hope so.
Yeah,
I feel like
going on
he's
for
been
what, like
hanging
2
over
years?
our heads, and Dalvin's been hanging over our heads forever now.
Yep,
Dalvin's he's posting pictures about his Miami high school back in the day, so now that means he's going to go to Miami again. I don't know, maybe he's just feeling nostalgic.
Yeah,
I'm hoping.
Some of these players and their tweets, I don't understand them. I
don't. Insert the wide receiver tweet.
All smoke.
It's all smoke, huh?
Yeah, I think Drew Davenport, who it is on Twitter. He's really good to look at
for any legal stuff. Yeah.
And I was reading that, and I would say he probably, obviously it's just speculation, but I would say he's going to get suspended this year, and I think it's going to be anywhere between 4 to 6 games. And so I think the beginning of the year, Jamal Williams is going to be pretty darn good, and I think for one, I know you had Kendra on your list, Ron, and I think he is probably, if once that comes out, try to grab him before the suspension.
It's probably too late now.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's probably too late, but I think we'll see a little bit of him, and then I think when Alvin comes back, he'll probably take the bigger hit than Jamal. I don't, obviously Jamal's not going to be the same. I think we talked about it already, but the same as last year. But I just thinking that if he does get suspended, Jamal will get those touchdowns, and then Kendre Miller will get those receptions.
Do you think Kendrick's going to get the reception? He didn't get a ton of receiving work in college ever.
See a bunch of passing work. No.
Yeah, he wasn't really used that way. He was used more as just like a runner. I think Jamal might get more receiving work. I could be wrong, but
average pass catcher.
Yeah, I don't know why, but I just think of I guess I should have looked into it a little bit more, but I just think of Kendre as like smaller, more of like a pass catcher.
They said it though. They early in the offseason, after they drafted him, they said that they were really impressed with his pass catching prowess. Yeah. Because I remember thinking it was a weird tweet because I was like, what pass? Like exactly like what Jay just said here. What it's not even in the stats.
It's not like TCU used their best assets appropriately last
not at all.
few years. Like Quentin Johnson didn't get used the right way either. So and like, thinking back, Jonathan Taylor didn't catch a ton of passes at Wisconsin either, and he's a really good pass catcher in the NFL. So you kind of never know, but well, that's what training camp's for, right? So
exactly. So, and then I think if Kamara does get suspended, we'll see. I mean, that's going to be your little preview for Kendre.
Yeah, we're gonna get to find out quick, fast, and often. How do you feel about George Pickens, McSpanky?
I like George Pickens. I think I've kind of been buying into him and Kenny Pickett quite a bit as year 2 kind of breakouts. I think Pickens is going to get a lot of the red zone work. I think Deontay Johnson's going to be kind of the slot guy in the middle there, but I think Pickens and Pickett are it's Pickensburg, baby. They're going to have a
Pickensburg. Nice wow, that's gross.
I like that. Yeah, I was thinking of
Don't
putting
hate
Pickett
me for that inbox.
I was thinking of putting Pickett on my list as somebody because I think
he'll do it.
It'd be cheap, and I think he's gonna by the end of the year be better than what he was last year. So I think he'll be all right, and I think I can see him
than last year.
That's true, but I could see him being somewhat like Ben Roethlisberger.
Wow. Dude, I don't know. I could see Pickett going either way, right? I could see him bouncing back and having like a really nice year and being like kind of a middling QB2 for his career. I could also see him being out of the league in like 3 years, but after his rookie contract's over because he just can't do it.
So I don't think he'll be out of the league super fast. I think Pittsburgh would keep him around until they found their guy, but he would be like the handoff to whatever running back 30 times a game we're using until we find our next quarterback.
Sure.
Kind of deal is what they would do with Pickett.
I could totally see it both ways. 100%.
That's where I'm at. I just think, did you get that trade offer?
No, I just saw Wes in our chat just posted the picture, the little emoji of like these super tiny hands and said it's the actual size of Kenny Pickett's hands.
Love that.
Okay, he wears the glove with them. He'll hand off with them pretty well. He's just got to hand it to Najee.
All All right, Ron. Do you wanna do the thing that you've been waiting for all day?
I want to get brocked up.
Perfect.
Oh baby,
I love it.
Let's get brocked.
Feels like I'm watching I'm like 12 years old again, tuned into like Monday Night Raw over here.
Right? Listen here, McSpanky. We're gonna get you so brocked up, you're not gonna know what happened to you, brother.
I love it.
That's
so
like
much.
Multiple WWE guys in the same.
Hey,
I love it.
Worry about it.
I was just waiting for like the Ric Flair to come in with like the woo. I feel like we let you go a little bit longer. It would have been there.
Slapping.
All right.
Okay.
So the 49ers here. Let's talk about the quarterback position because it's a nightmare at the moment. So Brock Purdy,
it's Brock.
Sam Darnold, and Trey Lance. Well, the reason I bring it up is people still love Trey Lance, and I don't understand why.
It's over
because he's not
Give
good.
Up.
And if the only argument I've ever seen that's like somewhat like captivating is because he was a 3rd overall pick. Like that's great, but he's not good, and nothing he's done on the field like warrants him having any more chances. Brock Purdy, like he actually started games, he started meaningful games and played well enough. Like he took his team to the NFC, conference game, and frankly, they were winning before he got injured. So like they very easily could have like went to the Super Bowl. The 49ers are not in a position where they have a win now roster. They're not in a position where they can sit there and let Trey Lance learn how to be a quarterback in the NFL. So for that reason, I think he's a 3rd string quarterback. I think if something were to happen to Brock and he's not ready to go, I think it's going to be Sam Darnold because I think he fits that offense better of being able to get the ball out on time and make quick and accurate reads. And I know it's going to piss people off, but that's how I feel.
Man, there's a lot of ghosts out there. I don't know if Sam could take it. So just as long as we keep the ghosts off the field, Sam will be okay. But I agree. It's Brock Purdy. He can run that offense for the 49ers. That's all they want. That's all they need. Go out there and just do the job that's put in front of you and don't do anything else.
Yeah. And the thing with Trey Lance, too, is he just hasn't played a lot of football.
No.
So I looked this up. So since he graduated high school, right, and he went to college, he has played in 25 games since high school. 16 of those were in his one healthy season at North Dakota State. That's just not a lot of football to have been played. Like that's insane. Like Brock Purdy, I'm pretty sure he started like over 40 games in college, which is like more than double what Lance has done.
Yeah. Give me the experience. Give me the guy that's been in the fire, dude.
I think so too, and I think he fits Shanahan's offense pretty well. And I think Shanahan can work around what kind of has some of his physical limitations, and he runs the offense the way. He runs the offense the way Matt Ryan could.
He has the best OC in the world. Oh yeah, what? Yeah. Dude, the best way, right, dude?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Yes.
Thought you liked that.
Oh, elite Matt Ryan.
So I was a Trey Lance truther for a little while, but I think this offseason I was starting to move off of him. And so I honestly don't know if I have any shares anymore, which is nice, but I might have 1 or 2. And I just have a hard time for the same reasons you guys already said. We haven't seen when he's been on the field, which is not much. We haven't seen it from him. And when Brock Purdy was on the field, we saw it and they went to the NFC Championship. Right. So I don't see why they would try to have Trey Lance out there again. I don't. Do you guys think Purdy's going to be ready to go in the first?
I think so.
First game, yeah.
I'm pretty sure I saw a report, and I meant to double check this, but I'm pretty sure I saw a report like a week or 2 ago. He went down to Florida and resumed throwing with his like doctors and some receivers. And
I saw something about that too. Yeah, and so I agree with Darnold being the backup, and then I think a lot of people will hope Trey Lance moves, right? And I don't think that's going to happen. I think that's just wishful thinking, right? I can't even think of where he would. Him. Yeah, exactly. That's what I was just going to say. Is I don't know where he would go or who would want him, right? And so I think the 49ers they're going to just, swallow their loss and move on with Brock Purdy. And I think Brock Purdy is going to be a solid, game manager, right? And I think he'll be okay fantasy wise, but I think Wes already kind of said it is Kittle will be probably the biggest riser out of those pass catchers.
For sure. So Purdy seemed to favor George Kittle, particularly in the red zone, right? Kittle got a ton of touchdowns when Purdy was on the field, which is awesome if you're a George Kittle manager. I was looking at kind of the splits. So Brock Purdy, Christian McCaffrey, Debo, Brandon Ayuk, and George Kittle played in 5 games together last year. So that included those 3 regular season games and 2 of the playoff games, and I didn't include the championship game where Purdy got banged up in the first quarter. Okay. So he averaged about 27 attempts per game, 2 touchdowns a game, and 223 yards. So pretty like pedestrian, right? Not terrible, but middle
game
of the
manager.
road. Game manager, exactly. So with that, CMC, I think, is the biggest benefactor here because they lean on the running game, and he gets a ton of receiving work. He got 18% of the target share when Purdy was in, and then Debo got 21%, Ayuk got 18%, and Kittle got 15%. They really split, like Debo, Ayuk, and Kittle were basically even in terms of like average like receiving yards a game. Like Debo averaged about 60, Ayuk was 52, and Kittle was 42. So I think Brock Purdy is the right answer for the 49ers as like a real life quarterback, but I do think he kind of hurts all the pass catchers in San Francisco unless you get the one that's going to catch the touchdowns.
Well, that's just a well-oiled machine, and you're not going to know which one, and that's by design.
That's what I was just going to say. It's going to be hard, and I think if I were to pick one that's going to step forward and have more of those touchdowns, I think it's going to be Kittle, right? We saw it a little bit last year in the red zone, but I do think just overall that's a big body. And when you have a game manager, that's what you're looking for. Like, I think more Debo is just your playmaker, right? I think he's going to benefit from those, handoffs, things like that. But I think it's going to have a hard time if it's Brock Purdy behind for Debo. And Wes asked where that leaves Debo. And I think it's going to be basically, I really like where you have both of those, Debo and Ayuk. They're 27, 28, right? There's nobody else there. So there's no one to really worry about outside of Kittle. So I think 27, 28, it's like right on. And it's going to be hard I feel like Debo is going a lot higher in startups than where he should, in my opinion.
He is. So he's like the wide receiver 19 on FantasyCalc, and Ayuk's the wide receiver 20 on FantasyCalc. And so I think if you're taking them kind of at their current ADP, you're going to be disappointed with the amount of production you get. I get wanting to have, because they're both younger, right? And they both, you can kind of talk yourself into, oh yeah, they're going to do great. But if all of these guys are healthy all year long, you're going to be disappointed with them. Now, Ron, I know you're giving me that face. It's because no one in San Francisco has stayed healthy for the last, decade.
Right. Wherever Kyle Shanahan is.
Right. So there's definitely a possibility that those guys are going to finish higher if 1 or 2 of those pass catchers get injured, right? Mm-hmm. Or if CMC goes down and they kind of have to throw the ball. And that's the thing. It's like, if everyone stays healthy, you're probably going to be disappointed with everyone outside of CMC. But if one of the guys goes down or 2 of the guys goes down, then you have a potential, really high scoring asset on your team.
Mm-hmm. I agree. And one thing I wanted to bring up is with CMC, he gets injured, right? So I think Elijah Mitchell's a very good handcuff. Very good. Obviously, he brings something different, right? He doesn't catch as many balls at all, right? But he's a good runner. I do know he's going to be used, but he's not somebody you're going to be able to probably put in a flex spot, right? Because there's a lot of.
I don't know. He was out there quite a bit last year.
He was, but I just feel like you're going to be hurt if you're putting him in as a flex spot, right? But if CMC goes down, boom, Mitchell, that's really good. And as we kind of were talking about rebuild before, is maybe if you have him, hold on to him, because I think CMC is going to go down for a couple games and you'll be able to flip him for something pretty good.
Elijah Mitchell was actually one of my favorite targets in the Underdog Weekly Winners Best Ball tournament, just because there's a good chance that CMC is going to miss at least 2 or 3 games. Yeah. And Mitchell, when he's the lead back, he's a workhorse and he's a beast, right? And he's a good red zone runner. And I think he's the perfect kind of guy you want in one of those tournaments. That's kind of a side note to Dynasty, but
I like it.
It was on my mind.
I like that.
He's got to stay healthy too.
For sure. I don't know if it's like the training staff in San Francisco, if it's like the turf and their stadium.
Well, remember Tevin Coleman and
Joe McKinnon.
Jarek
also was there.
Devonta Freeman.
Yeah.
They're always Yes. I was talking the Atlanta backfield. That they always seem to be dinged up, but
I don't know what it is, man.
I don't know. Something about Shanahan. Maybe I'll find out. I've been listening to the athletic deal with the Shanahan.
Bad juju.
Do you think Kittle could be a possible top 10 tight end?
Yeah, I think it's definitely possible. I have him at the tight end 13 right now, but honestly, if you give him one or two more touchdowns, I think he goes up to tight end 7. So it's in that kind of that. I don't think he has a top 5 season in him anymore, but I think he could very easily be a tight end 1 and a pretty good reliable one too.
Yeah.
Yes.
JB has him down for 6 receiving touchdowns, and where is it?
I have him
800 receiving yards.
That's funny. I was pretty close. So I have him at 751 receiving yards and 6 touchdowns as well.
Yeah. So say like you said, if he gets 1 or 2 more touchdowns, there you go. Top 10 easily, probably.
Yep, for sure. And if Ayuk or Debo gets hurt, then he's probably going to get closer to 8, 9, maybe even double-digit touchdowns, just because that offense is going to be good.
Yeah, real quick sideways, but one of my random leagues, somebody jumped in and just asked. I think he was doing a startup or something. He asked Goddard or Kittle. Who would you take?
Goddard or Kittle? Goddard for sure.
Yeah. Everyone said Kittle, and so I don't know. I was just kind of
why.
Well, they said that Kittle has outscored Goddard every year.
It's because Goddard's been hurt. He hasn't been able to stay on the field. I think that's. But I think on a points per game basis, and I'll double check this, but I'm pretty sure Goddard's outscored Kittle on a points per game. Although
I don't think they look at it. I don't think they look at it that way. I think it was just straight points. But then I looked into it more because I was like, oh, interesting. I didn't think of it like that, or I always thought Goddard was better because I would take Goddard as well. And I think the biggest difference was Goddard played less games.
Yeah, for sure. Plus, the Eagles' passing offense was pretty bad there for a little while there. They were a predominant, a run offense.
Yep. Yeah. Goddard's younger as well.
Yeah, the age is what makes me lean there, and also what Spanky said on a points per game basis. It can't be that far apart between Kittle and Goddard there. So give me the younger guy.
I think it's they're super close. Like in my last startup, they were going I think tight end 9 and 10 or something. So it's very, very similar.
All right, should we venture into the Hawk's nest here up in Seattle?
Caw-caw!
I like it. Oh, it's more like a crow, I think, but
love it.
We'll take it. It's close enough.
You're welcome.
It's close enough for me. All right, we got my boy here, Geno Smith. The haters wrote him off, and he didn't write back.
Dude,
one of my favorite favorite quote, and just he's just an awesome dude. Minus punching his teammate in the jaw or getting punched in the jaw, whatever happened there. But he's come a long way. He's been a journeyman quarterback. He finally got a shot last year. I have him down for QB8 on the season, which might be a little high, but I just think, they drafted Jackson Smith and Jigba. They were letting him throw the ball a ton last year. They drafted another wide receiver to pair with Tyler Lockett and DK Metcalf. I think they're gonna let Geno cook, carve up the NFC West. I think he's got a QB1. They gave him a contract extension this year. I think they're gonna let him
let him rip.
See what he's got. Yeah, let him loose.
Nope, Pete doesn't have it in him. He might do it for 4 games, and it's going to go bad, and they're just going to start running that ball right down everybody's throats, just like they do every year.
They let Geno throw it quite a bit last year, though.
That's what I was just going to say.
I think
so. I think it's going to be the same. It's going to be a lot of the same from Geno. I don't see him being much better than last year, but I think it's going to just be a lot of the same. Right? They brought in 2 really good players on the offense, Charbonnet and JSN. So I just think it's going to be a lot of the same from last year, right? I know he hates Charbonnet. It's crazy.
He's no good.
He is good, and they spent a top 50 pick on him. So I think he's.
I don't care.
He needs to get
I don't care. I'm telling you guys.
So I have them down. So I have Kenneth Walker at a 52% rushing market share with Charbonnet at 38%. So that leaves like an extra like 10% for the random dudes that trickle out there, and if Gino decides he wants to scramble, or they give JSN a reverse or Metcalf or whatever.
Sure.
So I think there's plenty of volume for them to both have work. I bumped up Kenneth Walker's target share. So last year he had about 38 targets or 35 targets, and I bumped up to 51.
I like that.
Yeah, buddy.
I saw some blurbs in the offseason saying that he was working on his receiving. So I think he has that, and then Kenneth Walker also just has like the home run ability, right? So he's any given handoff he can take it to the house, which is huge. Another guy I'm targeting in the weekly winners best ball tournament just because of that. Like he could take a 70-yard run and win you a week. So
I do think it's going to be I like where you have him at RB23 because I think Charbonnet is going to cut into his work, especially his red zone work, right? Charbonnet, correct me if I'm wrong, but Charbonnet is more of a little bit of a bigger back, right? They're both like bruisers, I think, but Charbonnet is just a little bit bigger.
Not a bruiser.
Charbonnet doesn't have the top. He's
Charbonnet
a little
is
bit
a
bigger.
soft big man.
He
runs with flair.
He doesn't run behind that big body.
I don't disagree entirely with that. Like he doesn't run as like hard as you would want him to see, but he actually has pretty good contact balance.
He sure does.
I
watched him in high school.
Bigsby clone. Did you really?
Yeah, he went to Oaks Christian, and I worked there when he was there.
That's right. I think he's.
That's cool. Well, there you go.
Yeah.
How tall is he?
Tall. I mean, I probably 6'1".
I was just curious. I don't know.
This is a dumb question. Don't worry about it. Anyway, so I see Tyler Lockett has gone the way of the dodo here and pretty much gone extinct at this point.
So for context there, I have the top 3 receivers in Seattle. I have DK Metcalf as a wide receiver 1 at wide receiver 12. I have JSN at wide receiver 28, so kind of a fringe wide receiver 2, wide receiver 3 flex play option. And then I have Lockett down at wide receiver 44. And the way I was looking at this is I think Lockett is probably going to be the second target in the offense for the first, maybe like month or 2 of the season. And then JSN's going to slowly take that over. And then Lockett towards the back half of the season is going to go back to, when he was doing those boom busts. Like, do you remember that stretch where he was like the wide receiver 1 for like 3 weeks, and then he just disappeared off the face of the planet for weeks at a time? And I think we could kind of see that a little bit, maybe not as drastic, but where I
feel like that happens every
time. He could be more of like the kind of the Tyler Boyd to the Jamar Chase and T. Higgins in Cincinnati, right? I know it's not a perfect example, but I think he's going to be the third offense or option there. And JSN's going to get, they spent a first round pick on him. He's going to get a ton of work. And DK Metcalf is going to get his because he's the big guy there.
Mm-hmm. Before we move on, Charbonnet is 6'1", 220. Kenneth Walker is 5'10", 212.
There you go.
So, I was wrong. They're both they're basically, Kenneth is just like smaller in size. They're both big backs though. Mm-hmm. So I know this is I'm sure this is a Seattle Seahawks rider, but they're thinking like he's going to be kind of like that Marshawn Lynch, Charbonnet, which is, I think that's tough to like put that on him. Like that is really tough in my opinion.
They don't even run the same. Literally zero running style similarities.
Well, it says that he, is like an old school physical brutality, like kind of like Marshawn Lynch. So,
I wish you would have put that on tape for me to see. That would have been great. I would love to see it.
I don't know. That's kind of what I was like getting towards, is what I meant by Charbonnet.
Sure.
Because when I saw him play, that's kind of what I thought of, is that kind of like a aggressive, bigger back.
I think so too. Don't let Ron's love for Kenneth Walker.
It's not Kenneth Walker love. I'm telling you. I'm telling you, it's not Kenneth Walker love. The dude had to go all the way out to the Pac-12 to run wild.
Okay, no. So he ran well at Michigan, and then
he had to split with Blake Corum, who was a mediocre at best back.
Who's good? Blake Corum's good.
Yeah, he's a mediocre at best back, but Michigan has an A-plus offensive line and run scheme because they have Jim Harbaugh, and it makes for a better running backs, and it's going to make Blake Corum look even better. We'll get to him next year. What a bump. I won't get into him now.
Wow.
I won't get into him now.
Michigan hate.
Not gonna be as,
I was going to say the Michigan hate is just flowing through you right now.
This is Jamal Williams behind the Lions' offensive line. You got a plus offensive line with an average back who knows what to do, and he does better. Michigan has a plus offensive line.
Well,
that's Michigan. I just gave them props. They have a plus offensive line. They make their running backs look good.
So trying to circle back a little bit, Seattle has a good offensive line.
Yes.
So I think Charbonnet is gonna get work. Seattle does like to run the ball. Kenneth Walker can't take the full workload. Yes, so Charbonnet is gonna get he's gonna get used.
They're gonna be a good. Well, I think they'd be a really good 1-2 punch. I really do.
I can't wait to see this one.
Before we move on to tight ends, I was gonna say I think Spanky, you kind of put this, but I think I don't know if you said it already, but I think Lockett's going to be that guy in the first 4 to 6 games, and then JSN is really going to hit his stride in the second half of the season. And I think JSN, it's going to be a really good 1-2 guy as well with Metcalf and JSN.
For sure. So if you have Lockett and maybe your team isn't quite ready to compete, and he gets off to a hot start, maybe try to sell him for whatever you can in the first month of the
100%, yeah.
That might be your last chance to get off the ride. Otherwise, you're just you're going down with the ship
every year.
Yeah. Hopefully he goes off week 1 because I think it'll only be a couple games.
Yeah. So
Norma Jones for you.
We got the show is quickly getting unhinged. I don't know what's happening anymore. Tight ends. Do you guys like any of these guys? Will Dissly caught a bunch of touchdowns last year. Noah Fant was there. I don't know.
Yeah.
Will Dissly's just always catching touchdowns, man. And then he's gonna blow out his Achilles and then come back miraculously and then like run for 3 more touchdowns and then blow something else out. It's crazy.
I personally don't want either of those guys.
Same.
So I don't. If I remember correctly, they don't really use those tight ends. Those are like the last options. So I'd rather. There's plenty of other guys that you could throw in there if you're really hurting for tight end. So I would stay away from the Seattle tight ends for sure.
Yeah,
for sure. I don't think they're going to offer you much. You might be able to throw them in your lineup and hope they don't.
Yeah,
get you a goose egg, but they might.
Gerald Everett goes right around these guys too, doesn't he?
Mm-hmm. It's and like Kate Otten is right around there. There's a bunch of guys that are just kind of gross
out of 100.
Gross options. Yeah. That it's like they're all the same.
And if Gerald Everett and Noah Fant are there, give me Jared Everett all day because I think in Los Angeles, the Chargers actually used Everett a lot more than Seattle does it all. So it's not like a sexy pick at all, but I just think Everett will get some work.
For sure.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Should we head up your hometown team there? Holler?
Yes, sir.
Go to the Rams. You want to
Yes, sir. We
can
do this. We can do this real quick because they are going to be garbage.
They suck.
My goodness. Yeah. So we'll see what happens with Stafford. I don't know. I heard some, I think it was just like some weird blur, but I think they thought about trading him. And I do know they really like Stetson Bennett. So it'd be like cool to move off of Stafford and to just see what Stetson Bennett can do. And then, then they could maybe get Caleb Williams, keep him in LA. Right. I think that'd be kind of cool. And so if you have Stafford, you're going to in for a hurt, because I think he's going to be a lot of the same as I know he was hurt last year, but it's going to be a lot of the same. Just crappy. But I do think Cam Akers could be solid this year.
So I was thinking about that too. I don't know what to make of Cam Akers. So why do you think he's going to be worth rostering and a good asset to your team?
So I do know
Williams and Zach Evans. Oh,
was that you're going to say why? Is because they don't have anybody else?
Yep.
Yeah. But one thing that that would deter me from feeling really comfortable with having him is their offensive line is terrible.
Bad.
It's so bad. And so, but if you think about their line was bad last year, and you think about the last, I think about 4 games, Cam Akers put up some good numbers, right?
No, he does that though. Like he does these like weird like stretches of games where you like kind of buy back in, and then he just goes back to being kind of just gross.
Yeah, Wes kind of hit it right on the nail. It's like the Rams won't be much help in fantasy till they fix that O-line, which is 100% true. I mean, Cup's going to get you some points, obviously, because there's nobody else there. And so he'll get you some points, but I just think it's going to be rough all year long, super rough.
So Cooper Kupp's like the only one that I feel good about. I have him down as the wide receiver 5 on the season. He's the only one that I like even care to have. Everyone else, and Puka's fine.
Oh yeah,
right?
you're Puka Nakua.
Puka's a guy that I think he can have like a couple games here or there, but I don't think it's going to be worth starting like ever, right? Tyler Higbee, if I squint hard enough and I need someone in a tight end premium, I could feel kind of okay about it.
Yeah, it's kind of like Fant and Disley. Like I would stay away from the Rams tight end. I mean, if they only have Higbee, so I would stay away from him as well if I have anybody else, right? So it's this offense in general is going to be rough.
Ron, I feel like you want to defend Matthew Stafford, so
I would never bet against Matthew Stafford. I watched Matthew Stafford play in Detroit for 12 years with no offensive line. That does not scare me one bit. That man is not scared of shit. He will stand there and he will sling that rock and he will drag that team to wins if he has to. That's just the type of competitor he is. He's not going to go out there, and just softly just hand wins over to other teams. Like he's out here to win. He's still playing. I don't know. I don't get this. And he still has Sean McVay, like one of the best offensive coordinators / coaches in the past 5 to 10 years as well at his back. I think that there's I think they might sneak up on some people this offense.
So here's what I say to that is he's not 25 anymore. He doesn't quite bounce back from all these hits like he used to. Right? He's 35 years old. Like the offensive line's bad. Great. He has 35 is the new 20, right? He has no offensive line. He's not mobile at all, right? So the pass rush, I saw something today. I was looking up their offensive line. Their left tackle, they're getting back from injury last year. He was injured. He started in 6 games, and he allowed 5 sacks in those 6 games, and he's an upgrade over what they were rolling out last year. So I don't see how this is going to go well. Like they had to play San Francisco twice with Nick Bosa. Like they play against. It's almost just like a free rush, right? It's just dudes are running to their face. So there's only so much they can do.
He knows what he's doing out there. Okay, it's not like he's some young pup and he's, going to get blitzed all to hell and get scared out there. He was the most blitzed quarterback when they made that Super Bowl run that year, and he kept burning people on the blitz. So blitz Stafford. He doesn't care. Hit him in his mouth. He doesn't care. He will just keep taking it and just keep throwing it.
That's fine, but so why wasn't he good last year?
Hey, man. Cooper Kupp.
Yeah.
But he was playing with Kupp, though.
Darrell Henderson.
But is the situation any better this year? That's the thing. It's like he was bad last year because the situation was bad, but the situation's still bad.
But he gets Cooper Kupp back.
Kupp played a decent amount with him last year.
Let's see how many games Kupp played. I don't know.
I think he's being slept on for honestly. They're not taking last place. They're not taking last place. They're not the worst team in the NFL. No way. They're not the worst team.
Yeah, that's wishful thinking. I have a hard time, especially with Sean McVay. They're going to roll it out every week, and they're going to fight, right? And I know they don't have the best pieces all together, but they still have guys on defense, right? And so we don't need to talk much about that, but I think that's going to help them get some wins. And so I do not think they're going to be able to. I think they'll be easily top 10 for sure, top 10. in the draft next year, but I have a hard time thinking they're going to be the worst in the NFL.
But that all the things you just said, like they're going to go out there, they're going to fight, like that was true last year, and they were still bad. They had like the 6th worst record in the NFL last year. They just didn't have their first round pick anymore.
That's true. And who had that one?
I doubled Seattle. Or no, Detroit.
No, Detroit did, yeah.
Sorry, Ron.
So
I should have known.
Cup played in 9 games last year. So I think
8 of those were with Stafford, though.
Yeah. So I think, Cup's going to be back for the whole year. I don't know. I'm out on my Rams, to be honest. It's going to be a rough year.
Just stay away from it all.
Exactly.
Give me that Stafford garbage time, baby.
I don't think it's going to be garbage time for him.
Yeah. I think
Well, you just said they're going to be terrible. They're the worst team in the NFL. There's no garbage time for that team?
There is, but if you can't block long enough for
he doesn't need you to block long to get that ball off. I'm telling you, I've seen it. He just lets it rip. He knows what he's doing out there.
I know he's your boy, right? Because he was drafted by Detroit and he played there for like a decade.
He's a gorgeous man.
He's a handsome fellow. I will give you that. I just don't think he's the same guy anymore.
100%. And I do think if he's going to take all those hits, he's probably going to be missing time again, and that's going to hurt the Rams. So
he won't miss time. He'll play hurt. That's the problem.
And then he gets more hurt, and then he has to miss time.
Yeah, then he will miss time. Yeah. So that's enough with the Rams. My gosh, they are rough.
Well, let's get even rougher.
Yeah, right. Oh my gosh,
seems just as bad. So, the Arizona Cardinals are the last team here, the NFC West. We're going to talk about. I think there was actually pieces on the Cardinals offense that I don't mind having this year, though. I think that's the difference. Why I'm a little looking at them a little brighter. Let's start with Kyler Murray, though. Where do you guys think he plays this year?
Nope.
I think it will depend on how the year goes, right? I think even if they're, I don't know. I think have we heard much of how he's recovering?
Okay, from what it seems like on social media posts, but that's
and he tore his ACLs in December, so I don't know. Yeah. I'll have a hard time thinking he does play because when December rolls around, they'll be out of it and they'll be like, why would we throw him back in there? Right.
Especially if putting him in there over, Colt McCoy or Clayton Tune improves your chances to win.
Yeah.
And then you screw yourself out of Caleb Williams.
Yep.
Yeah. I think there's a decent chance that he's played his last game for Arizona. I mean, really? the new regime didn't draft him, right?
Nope.
And I think he's still young enough that I think they could get something for him,
yep.
Right? So I would imagine Arizona ends up with the first overall pick next year. And unlike the Bears, who decided to trade it, I think they will try to trade Kyler and keep the first pick.
They want their guy. They want the dude that's going to have a good attitude in the quarterback room. Not old Kyler. They want the guy that's going to buy into their system. I heard this Monty Ossenfort guy is a pretty hard-nosed guy. Hey, hold on, girl.
Yes. And so let's I don't think he plays this year. If he does, he probably plays in the back half of the year. I think he probably starts the season on the PUP.
Mm-hmm.
If depending on who starts, because let's just assume Kyler's not starting the year. Do you have any interest in Colt McCoy or Clayton Tune?
I've drafted them a bunch of times just in hopes that somebody's interested in them and giving me something at some point.
Yeah.
Other than that, nope. I'll get rid of them pretty easily. I think we know what those two are going to be. The guy I am interested in that I see you have highlighted as well is Michael Wilson. The dude sounds like he's a dude's dude, and we've been grabbing him in the 3rd, 4th, and 5th rounds of rookie drafts since it all went down. So I think we're all pretty loaded up on him, and it's pretty easy to see, the writing on the wall for him with the wide receivers around him now.
So I was looking at their depth chart. Him and Zach Pascal are literally the only 2 dudes who are over 6 foot in that receiver room. So
he has to be on the field.
He's gonna see the field, right? He's gonna, and he's. It's just, is there a quarterback there that can get him the ball if Kyler doesn't play? That's the only concern.
Is it the Godwin argument where it doesn't matter?
No, it can't be. Yeah,
not that he's Godwin level of good, but the volume of which he would receive based off of this receiving core.
I still think best case, Hollywood, Rondale, and McBride are getting
targets him.
I bet he does.
No, absolutely not.
Well, let's work out like a bet on that because I feel really good about that.
Well.
Nondale is,
and I think Michael Wilson will get a bump next year once they get a different quarterback in there, right? And I think this year he'll be kind of like whatever. I don't think he'll out target more or out. He will not get more catches than Rondale Moore. I'm not a big Rondale Moore fan at all. So, I mean, it'd be super cool if Michael Wilson gets more, but I don't see it. Even though they're both small, I really don't see it. I think they're going to use those two guys, Marquise Brown and Rondale Moore. And I think they're going to, there's this offense, I think will have a total, different look to it next year.
For sure. Well, I mean, because they're going from Kingsbury's system to bring in as the OC. I'm blanking on his name right now.
I'll pull it up.
Thank you. But the one guy I do like here is James Conner. I feel like he's like a screaming value just because there's like no one behind him. There's Keontae Ingram, who's I think was like an undrafted free agent, and Corey Clement, who's like the ghost of nothing.
How is he still on a roster?
That's honestly, when I was looking at the depth chart, I was like, how is this dude still in the NFL?
That's exciting.
Clement?
Yeah.
Remember that pass he caught in the Super Bowl for the touchdown? That's the last thing I remember about him.
Yeah. I wonder if okay.
Their offensive coordinator is Drew Petzing. He came from Cleveland. Last year he was the quarterback's coach.
Oh, that's inspiring.
I was just gonna say that, like, that's not okay.
Good thing he's there to teach Kyler what to do.
Yeah, that doesn't bode well. I wonder if he'll be there year two. So, but coming from Cleveland, they ran the ball quite a bit. They have a defensive head coach. I think James Conner is going to get a ton of volume, and it might not be pretty, but the numbers will add up if you just keep the volume, keep the carries coming in. He's a decent pass catcher too. Like, I think James Conner, like he's running back 38 right now on FantasyCalc, and 36. Sorry, like he's gonna outproduce that. So if you're a contender, like and nobody wants him. Like if you're a contender, you could probably get him for I don't know what, like 2/3 or maybe your second, or you're not gonna have to pay like anything for him.
Yeah, I think if you're a contender, you'd probably easily move your late second for him. I would assume. Like, I mean, if I was a contender, I would. I don't have many contending rosters, unfortunately. But I definitely would if I was contending.
For sure. And the other guy that I really like on this offense is Trey McBride. I think I have him breaking out this year. I have him as the tight end 12 in points per game right now, and 2 tight end premiums. Like, I just think so. Zach Ertz, he tore his ACL late too, like November 13th.
How many times last year? For him too.
Well, that's the thing, and he's 32. He was already looking kind of slow, like he had lost a step. Like he doesn't recover as quickly as some of like these younger guys. Trey McBride's he's a big body guy too. Like, and he was a beast in college. Like I know he didn't do much last year, but I don't know if you watched any of his film at Colorado State. This kid was a monster.
He was offense, wasn't he?
What's that? For sure.
Like, his volume was nuts.
He had like an insane production profile. The dude's just a beast. I think he's going to be the guy in the red zone because him and Michael Wilson are probably the two guys that when they do get in the red zone are probably going to be the two there because they're the two big body guys. I mean, you're not going to throw it to Hollywood or Rondale, right? Unless you're doing little like clear routes.
Because they're gadget players. Not a real wide receiver.
I mean, Hollywood is a little bit, but that's beside the point. Trey McBride, though, I really like him.
Yeah, I really like him too. And I think he started to break out, I wouldn't say like a ton, but he had a very good stretch his last, 5 games or 6 games. He was 3 receptions. Oh, the one was bad. So we'll call it the last 4 games. So 4 receptions for 55 yards, 1 bad game, 3 receptions for 17, 7 receptions for 78. and 3 receptions for 41. So I think the big difference we'll see next year is receptions in the red zone, and he'll get some more touchdowns. He only had 1 touchdown last year. But in the first half of the season, or until Zach Ertz was injured, I don't think they used him that much.
For sure.
So I really do think that the end of the year is kind of more what we're going to see from the end of last year and going into this year. I think Trey McBride is a good bet to break out.
For sure. And I think you can get him fairly cheap too.
Yeah.
No one seems to like him just because he disappointed so much last year. I haven't tried to acquire him too much. I've had people try to get him off my roster, and nobody wants to pay anything for him. So
yeah, if I was selling him, I would not sell him. I would not sell him for cheap, because I think he's going to break out. We're talking about Trey McBride.
Oh, thank you.
McBride's the tight end 19 on FantasyCalc right now, so you can get him.
Yeah, cheap.
super cheap. Like, would you throw out?
Send me some offers if you see that I have McBride on my roster.
Okay. Would you?
I want to see what you're willing to give.
Would you do a second for McBride?
I would want it to be early at this point.
So you like him?
So you do?
I don't like him,
yeah.
But I can see where you could. It's not that I like Trey McBride. I could see where he could turn into that early too with his production based off of the tight end landscape.
What if I gave you an early 2 for Trey McBride and your 3rd?
I mean, can I give you something that's kind of worth a 3rd? Like a player I don't really want?
Maybe.
Other than my pick.
Okay, but I think that can get done, though. I think a second round pick could probably get
that.
Yeah.
I think so.
I would hem and haw about throwing that 3rd in there just because it's Trey McBride and it's a 2, but that's just because I'm getting stingy.
I think you do like Trey McBride more than you.
Yeah,
you want to.
I think so too. I would keep him if you have him. I would definitely keep him.
Oh, I am, because I could see the upside happening. That's for sure. But also, can we talk about Saquon and these blue hats? If anybody knows what these 2 blue hats are, please DM me with the answers.
Yes. Twitter athletes on Twitter are it's almost impossible to figure out what the heck's going on there.
I can't. I just went back to the reason I had to ask you guys what you're talking about is because I clicked on the Discord and it was just the Saquon 2 blue hats and I just lost it. I was just like, what is the hats?
Went down the rabbit hole. I have that same problem. I have like my ADHD takes over sometimes and I go down the rabbit hole. So I gotta really sit here and stay focused. So that
before we get out of here,
go for it, Holler.
I was gonna say, how about the you gonna watch the Hard Knocks this year?
Oh yeah, we talked about the Jets. I mean, Aaron Rodgers is always kind of fun to see.
I hope he just walks off on an interview because he gets so upset by the questioning. That's the only way I'm turning it on. I in no way, shape, or form will give Aaron Rodgers any second of my time unless he's upset.
I think it'll be fun to see like Breece Hall and like Garrett Wilson and like Sauce Gardner seems like he's a fun dude. Like I think they have some fun personalities in New York, so I think that'll be interesting. Do you guys watch a lot of Hard Knocks? I feel like I always watch the first like episode or 2, and then I kind of like trail off.
I've only watched the Lions one because it was the Lions.
I watched last year. It was super good. I think I really enjoyed last year. I don't remember watching much of it before. But I think they do a really good job with it, so I think it's going to be good. And yes, Wes, I agree 100%.
Zach Wilson.
I can't wait to see Zach Wilson and that relationship between Rodgers and.
I keep forgetting he is still on that roster. That poor kid.
Yeah, right.
He's there. Hopefully,
him and Trey Lance, man, back to back, right?
Yeah. That draft class really.
That was rough.
Can't miss.
Wow.
Swinging a mish.
So that wraps us up for our NFC West. Next week, we're going to go over the AFC West, and that's our last of the divisional previews, and then we'll see what comes there. But thank you all for watching or listening. Make sure you like, subscribe, comment on YouTube. Let us know what you like, don't like, what you want to see more of, and we will catch you all on the next one. Peace out.
See ya. Peace.